that my progress doesn't always match with clarity. They don't always arrive in the same order or in the order that we expected. So I used to think that I needed clarity before I took a step forward. But now I'm learning that it mostly comes through the steps that you do take.
Welcome to Balance by Design. In the last episode, we talked about identity and how roles and values all link together with identity and what happens when you focus on roles instead of your values. And as a reminder, roles are just titles and values are something that you take with you. I wanted to talk this episode with a couple of friends who are going through some pretty big changes. Both of them are moving to a new country and both are switching their roles. So my friend Takara is going from a teaching position to start her own business, and she's also recently written a book. And my friend Andrew has been a school counselor, and he is going back to the US to pursue his goal of being a classroom teacher. So I talked to them in this episode about what that means and how that has impacted their identity, what has changed for them over the months, what they're hoping for in the future. I really hope you enjoy having this conversation with us. I'd like to welcome my friends, Takara Dudley and Andrew Gee. I work with both of them at an international school in China, and they're both making big changes this year. Takara, can you tell us the changes that you're making?
So I am currently a learning support specialist and I am transitioning out of the K-12 system. I'm making a big change.
That's why I can't wait to talk to you. And Andrew, how about you?
So I am currently a school counselor and I'm changing to be a homeroom teacher, and I'm also changing countries. So I'm going back to United States.
Yeah, same with me.
All right. Andrew, I'm curious to know what has been the hardest part of this transition for you?
When I'm thinking about transitions, every time I've changed schools, it's been a little bit difficult. This time around, I feel so excited about what lies ahead. So it's been a little less challenging. But I know that from my past transitions that like at my last school, it's kind of like a run until you get there and then it like hits you. Like I was just kind of overwhelmed with grief and sadness at the end so I think, I don't know, I have a feeling that it's going to be similar this time around. I'm very excited about what lies ahead. And so I'm kind of expecting that. Whereas in the past, where I've been at a school that I loved deeply, I remember making that choice was so hard and kind of the grief was at the beginning. I don't know.
Yeah. Takara, how about you?
I think mine's is a little different because the plan is not to go back into the school system. So for me, I would say the hardest part has been leaving behind something that's been deeply connected to my identity. I've been in education for almost 2 decades. So much of my professional life has been built around supporting students and building systems and helping others to succeed. So now I'm actually stepping away from that environment, and it's required me to start rethinking who I am beyond the job title.
Mm-hmm.
So transition itself has not been difficult, but learning to separate what I do from who I am, I think that's been the hardest part.
I've gone through a lot of role changes in the last couple of years. And so every time it's like, who am I? And I feel like I'm answering that anew every time. So you said the decision was easy for you. What has surprised you, Takara, about this whole transition?
Oh, I would say the biggest thing that has surprised me is discovering that my progress doesn't always match with clarity. They don't always arrive in the same order or in the order that we expected. So I used to think that I needed clarity before I took a step forward. But now I'm learning that it mostly comes through the steps that you do take. So not before, but during. And so that is something that has been surprising for me in this transition.
Yeah, I understand that. I've been on a similar journey. Sometimes it's that just having the faith of the next step is going to work, and you just have to hope it will, and that the picture will open up as you go. How about you, Andrew? What's been surprising for you?
When I first came to where I'm at now, the city I'm in is, I came and visited before I moved here. And when I visited this city, I was like, I don't like it here. And then I convinced myself that I did like it when I moved here. But as I'm wrapping up and going away, I'm like, oh, I'm going to miss this and I'm going to miss this. And so I'm surprised by, because I've been so vocal about, oh, I don't like this place, I don't like this place. But there's things I'm going to miss. And so that's been a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, and I think that happens. Like, I remember when I left my last school, I was ready to go. I mean, the school was great, the country was great, but I was just ready for that next step. And I was so ready that I was surprised at the end when I had that same of like, oh, like I'm going to miss it. And then after I left, I felt homesick. And I was like, how do I feel homesick for a country that I only lived in for 2 years? But I did. And so I would feel like, oh, I kind of miss it. And so I think sometimes some of that gets in our heart more than we realize. Yeah.
I think for me, I have fleeting moments. Like I made the decision, not just for me, but for my daughter to go home closer to family, but I've made family here as well. And so it's been surprising that even though this has very much been a positive decision that I've made to return home, I am starting to feel a little bit of the sadness that comes along with just leaving the good memories or leaving the people that I've built really close connections to, like you too.
I have been thinking about that too. I'm going to miss both of you so much. And it's like I can't think about it too much because then I get emotional. But yeah, you do get that found family. I think that was something that surprised me about international education was how quickly those bonds form. And it is really hard when you step away. But the world is smaller than we think, and we're going to connect again. So, speaking of that, and as you leave, what is something that you've had to let go of? Whether it's a personal belief or a way of thinking or possessions, what have you had to let go of?
Go ahead, Andrew.
I've had to let go of a lot of expectations. I had a lot of expectations of what I wanted myself to do while I was here. I've had really great experiences here, but there were things that I was hoping would happen and it didn't happen. So I think letting go of that is something I'm in the process of doing.
I think for me, it's a little similar, but more of like what I should have done more of before I went home. Like I should have saved more money, or I should have did this, or I should have traveled more. Like all of the things that come where like I thought I was going to have more time to do. And then the decision happened and it was like suddenly like, oh wait, I don't have any more time to do any of those things. So that had the thoughts of things that I should have done. But also for me, something that I've had to let go of is thinking that I had to have everything figured out before I moved on. I think that was one of the toughest things to let go of is because I'm used to being, and I'm sure, as educators, we all are, we know how to anticipate needs, we know how to plan and solve problems, but then in these types of transitional seasons, we don't have the answers.
Right.
And so we have the idea of what it could possibly look like, but it doesn't necessarily follow in our schedules. And so having to let go of the need to control the outcome, that's been something that I've been working on through this transition.
That is super hard for me to do as well, is letting go. And I think experienced that a couple times in my life. Like I know what school I'm going to, but the position I have is a brand new position. So I don't know what it's going to look like. And so even that is a little bit scary, and you just have to trust and make that leap. I think the time is something too, like you both mentioned. I remember when I made the decision to leave and it felt like it was so long, like I had so long between then and the end of the year. And now I'm looking and there's like 6 days left. And so it's this weird, like it lasts like super long. And then all of a sudden it's like, it's almost done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm excited about it, but then I'm like, oh, wait, Yeah, to the other side of the, all the tough parts that we were carrying through the transition. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I'm like, okay, like next week's the last week of school.
It's like it's starting to really sink in. And I'm like, and there's stuff that has to be done. And there's stuff, I'm going back to the US to visit family. You guys are moving back to the US. And it's like all of that logistic stuff comes in, the emotion stuff of saying goodbye and letting go of things that maybe you didn't do that you maybe wanted to do. Like, I think all of that starts coming in really quickly. It's always a process. So, as you're changing this, we talked a little bit about identity, and you both are changing roles. Right now, what part of your identity feels the strongest to you?
I feel like because for so much of my career, my identity has been around a teacher. And even when I was a counselor, I purposely switched to elementary because I'm like, no, I'm a teacher before I'm a counselor. But I feel in this transition and this year, my strongest part of my identity is as a son, a brother, and a friend. And I think those are what's really stuck out to me. And that's been my motivating factor in making this transition because I want to be a better son. I want to be a better brother, a better uncle. And so it's those are part of my identity I think is most salient for me right
I
now.
love that.
For me, I think I'm walking into a season of becoming the learner. I mean, we're lifelong learners, of course, but we've been such in positions where we're the one instilling the knowledge, whereas now I get to take a step back a little bit and learn what some new things that I love about myself, or going into this new season, who am I becoming outside of the role? One of the parts that remains strong for me is being a builder. And so I think since making this decision, my creative juices have just like started overflowing. And so being able to have the space and time to be able to really learn more about myself in that role,
Mm.
in that new identity, and then really develop it is something that I feel is strong right now, but is going to be strengthened in this next part of the season.
I want to talk about that a little bit more because you have been very creative. You're writing a book right now. And so I want to talk about how has that impacted your identity? I mean, you're an author now. And, a year ago you weren't, but now you're an author. So like how do you feel like an author? How has that impacted you?
I don't think it's really settled in yet,
Mhm.
because it definitely was not, like you said, last year I wasn't an author. 3 months ago, I was not an author, right? But something about this transition actually prompted me to document all of the struggles that I was feeling, or all of the pressure, or all the weight that I was feeling, and what ended up becoming pretty much a digital journal, ended up becoming material for a book that hopefully can help others. As an author now, it hasn't really settled in. Like, I keep saying it,
Mhm.
but I'm a whole author now, like, but I think it'll become more real once it's been published. And
Yeah.
I think the reality of it all, once it comes out in print and I can literally physically hand over a copy,
Yeah.
I think I'll really like it. I'll take on the role.
Yes.
Weird, because I want to take on that role now and start thinking as an author. And honestly, I feel like that's kind of started happening since I've written the manuscript. Is like now I'm like, okay, everything's an experience, and now it's information that it could possibly be used in another book. So
Yeah.
maybe I have already accepted the new identity of being author. And it's one that I'm still looking forward to exploring more
Yeah.
deeply.
I've seen, Andrew, your role also changed this year, like even like what you did in the school. Is that you're a counselor and you're talking about how you are drawn to elementary and you want to go back into the classroom. And I was thinking about that. And as Takara, like becoming an author, and how this year you also became a reading interventionist. And so that's one of the things that you added that for listeners, I had gone to Andrew and just said, hey, we have more kids than we have interventionists, and I really need another person to run a group. And Andrew was immediately like, yes, I'll do it. And so that meant a lot to me. But then also, you were very successful at it. I think your reading group was one of the most successful groups in the school. And yeah, you should be really proud of that. And so I'm just curious, did that change your identity, or did you already see yourself as a reading interventionist or as that type of a teacher?
Literacy has been something I've been a bit obsessed with for some time. So when the opportunity came, I jumped at it. And I think it helps solidify that this is really what I want to do. And this is the move that I want to make. And so it was just a confirmation of what I want to do.
I'm curious, there's, especially being the international community, we're all used to moving, we all have stuff going on, but both of you are you're not just moving, you're changing careers. What advice have you gotten from people that is not helpful? Like, what is something that you wish people would stop saying, or that has annoyed you, or just isn't helpful, if you've received advice like that?
I've had the question, have you decided what you're going to do next? That's been mostly what I've heard. And, it's fair because people are just curious, about what's the next thing that you're going to do if you're not going to be here. Right. But I think what they don't realize is that during that transition, it kind of creates more pressure to think that you have the answer to respond. And so for me, I feel like it's been less of me trying to find a quick answer to respond to someone, but more paying attention of the things that are emerging, the creativity that has started to spark, or some interests that I may not have had or that I may be revisiting. So I learned when that question has come, it's just more so to say, hey, I'm exploring what's next. I'm open to what's coming.
Yeah.
But I think advice, yeah, not so much. I don't think anyone really can give advice unless they are going through the same transition that I'm doing.
Right.
So I think it's more, for me, it's just been more of curiosity and them asking, what am I going to do?
I think that's something I noticed, like my last school, like the end of the year, it's that constant, have you found a job yet? Where are you going? And like for anybody that's leaving, and sometimes I feel bad for the people that are taking longer to get a job or they don't know, because it's like, how many times a day do they have to answer that question? So that makes sense. How about you, Andrew?
I think so. Because I've been wanting to make this transition for years now to be an elementary teacher. And when I actually came to this school, I said in the interview, like, I actually want to be a homeroom teacher. And I thought I was like, okay, I lost that job. But I felt such a pressure to find a job at the last transition that I feel like I jumped too soon. And so this time taking a step back, like I want to be picky, but I feel a little, maybe it's not, maybe it's just in my head that there's like a little slight judgments in the decision that I'm making, because I don't have a job yet. And so they see like, oh, well, that it's like they see that as a little bit of a failure, or or when I'm going back to the classroom, or that I really want to go be a homeroom teacher, people don't quite understand, like, why would you do that? Like, a lot of people want to become the counselor. Like, why would you want to be the teacher? Or going back to the States, in the international world, I think that's looked down on. Like, why would you want to do that? And so I think maybe it's not said, I just feel there's some judgment passed in these little interactions that I have.
I think you raised a really interesting point, because I actually wrestled with something similar when I was at the university. I was a professor as chair of my department. And when I decided to go international, I did not want to go into leadership, because I had done leadership. I had done K-12 leadership. I had done university leadership. And I'm like, I want to be a teacher. And it wasn't so much that other people said stuff, but it was me, where I was like, oh, you're going backwards. Like I felt like I was going backwards, but then that also annoyed me that I thought that way, because I'm like, why is teaching backwards? Teaching's hard, and teaching takes, it's a wonderful, great job, but I had to like overcome that idea that by not staying in leadership that I was somehow moving in the wrong direction. And so I think sometimes people, it's like you're supposed to do A and then B, then C. But I know for me, like it was
Yeah.
100% the right move. I love leadership. I like doing bits of leadership, but I also really love teaching. And so I'm not embarrassed that I went from a leadership to a teaching position. But I know what you mean, that people are like, why don't you have a job yet? Or why would you go in that direction? And they don't understand.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't, it's not said, but it's just kind of expected. Because I've been in 2 interviews where it was someone who's in leadership, then they were taking a teaching role. And after the interview, that was brought up. They're like, well, why are they doing that? And as if like there must be
Yeah.
something wrong.
I've had several roles throughout these almost 2 decades. I still can't believe that. But before this position, I was a dean at my other school. And then before becoming a dean, I was a pre-K inclusion teacher. And before becoming a pre-K inclusion teacher, I was lead teacher of special education at a charter school. So like I've had several different roles, and I kind of feel like by title,
Mhm.
I've gone up and down. But what I've realized is all of it is experience,
Mhm.
and trialing them out or having those years in those roles, it really does. The longer you're in it, I feel like it fine tunes what you're really passionate about
Mhm.
while you're still getting experiences. But I think because, especially in the Western mindset, we're always thinking we're supposed to climb ladders, right? If you're not having this prestigious name or all of these letters behind your name, then you feel less than your counterparts,
Right.
right? Or people weaponize those who do have that, who do have those titles and roles and have spent the years working to establish themselves. But even with all of that, at the end of the day, it comes to what do I feel the most confident in doing? Where do I find my passion? Where do I feel like I can be the most useful?
Mhm.
And for me, I feel like I can be more useful to education outside of the K-12 system.
Mhm.
And so I think at the end of the day, it's really what makes you happy, what makes you sleep well at night, and what makes you feel like your passion is growing and that you're helping the students that you want to help.
Yeah.
So yeah, dust them off.
I agree. And I think for all three of us, I think we've done different roles and we've done some of that up and down in different places. And I feel like you said, like every experience is just something that gets added to your skill set. It's something that you then carry to that next place. And I know, like for me, I understand leadership in a different way because I was there. But at the same time, when I write about leadership, I have a better understanding because I'm living a teacher life right now. And so I feel like, and like Andrew, as being a counselor, like that is going to give you insight and knowledge as a classroom teacher that you wouldn't have had. So I feel like all those experiences for those of us that do some different roles and take some of those chances, I think it does make you stronger when you go on to that next passion. I think it's an important, it's like collecting those like a necklace. You're collecting all those experiences that you can use in other ways. All right. We talked a lot about the changes over the year. I was thinking about this too. What do you know now that you didn't know 6 months ago? So it's June. So 6 months ago, the start of December. So think end of November. So like around American Thanksgiving, not quite Christmas time yet. Think about who you were then and what you knew then and what you know now. And what's something that you know now that you didn't have then?
For me, I think for I it's something I really wrestle with is because I really wanted to leave this school early because it's been such a challenging year for me. And so now that it's like we're almost there, a friend of mine, she's like, "Oh, see, look, you made it." And part of me, like, I'm proud that I made it, but another part of me, I still question if that was the right choice to stay. And so I am happy that I do feel like I've gained a lot of
Mhm.
resilience this year. I think that is something that to be proud of and to be happy about. But then I question myself, like, what is my line that should be my jumping point? And so I'm proud that I feel like I've gained a lot of resilience, but I feel like I want to explore that a bit more with myself.
That's a really interesting idea to think, like, where is my line in the sand? And if that has changed, where maybe you did stick it out, and I know it was challenging. I'm wondering if for all of us, if maybe we stayed or did something longer, where the next time we're in the situation, maybe that line in the sand is a little bit earlier. So maybe even with the resilience, maybe part of that is realizing, like, I'm not going to stick it out that long next time. So I hadn't thought of that. It's an interesting thing to think. With the resilience also comes maybe some changing boundaries.
Uh, I got a little different take on that because 6 months ago, I was not planning on leaving. I wasn't planning on leaving until the beginning of this year, like February is when I decided to leave. But it's funny because where you talk about the line in the sand, it only took the situation that happened wasn't what made the whole decision, but it kind of was the reality check for me that I needed to take stock of all of situations that were happening in our lives, and especially because it's not just me that I have to think about.
Right.
If it was just me, I probably could stick it out longer, or if it was just me, I probably could have just left earlier, but I didn't have the plan to because I had already signed to return for next year. But when I do think about the line of sin, I think it was the icing or the cherry on top that occurred that I, in that moment, decided I'm not coming back. And so I think for me, what I didn't know was that the plans that I already had would be disrupted and that actually would thrive because of that change. Like so much from 6 months ago where I had no clue what was going to happen. Like I was just living life like I was still going to be here. And then an immediate change and the line in the sand. And then it actually catapulted me in a whole nother direction. And so if you had asked me 6 months ago, I probably wouldn't even be on this podcast right now. I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna miss my feelings. But now it is a different perspective. The resilience part too is I think I also recognize that my boundaries weren't just something that I was saying. It really was that, oh no, I'm not doing this. This is not for me anymore. I need to make the decision to go. And it was kind of immediately. So it's like some of that, like knowing what that line is saying, but I didn't know what it was until it actually happened. So I think if the situation, hopefully it doesn't have to present itself again when it comes to your boundaries or staying in a place longer than you need to. But I think if it really had gotten to a point that you were just like, absolutely not, then I think you definitely know to make that move and change.
But I just absolutely love that you did that.
Like I didn't know that was capable of that. Like, but I'm glad that I was capable of that because it actually has strengthened something inside of me that was just like, no, I know who I am. I know what my worth is. I don't need anyone to validate that. And if I have to convince others that, this is what I am, then this is not the place that I need to be anyway. And so I think it just was a culmination of all of life's situations that were occurring that just happened to be that one particular situation shifted the trajectory of the rest of my life, to be quite honest.
I know for me, I didn't decide to leave right away. First, I changed my role within the school, and I had a similar like clarity moment of, no, I am changing my role, and I thought that will be enough where it'll solve the problems that I'm having. And what was interesting is I made that decision, and it was right before we had a break, and I came back, and I was so much lighter after making that decision that somebody at the school came up to me and she was convinced that I had had some work done over break that I had gone to Korea and had like a facial or something. And I'm like, no, this is just what happens when you make a decision that's right and you know it. I know for me, and maybe it's because I'm a Gen X person, I can tell you that I have stayed in many jobs too long because I'm like, I can tough it out. And I can. And I mean, I can tough out pretty much anything. But now I'm getting to a point in my life where the question isn't whether I can tough it out, but whether or not I want to and whether or not I have to. And I think that's something that it's a lesson that took me a while to learn. And I think sometimes, even though we can, doesn't mean that we should. And so, and Takara, I remember the day that you made that decision and you knew you were like not debating at all. You knew what the right thing was. And so sometimes I think we get that thunderclap of clarity. And then sometimes I think we see the sign and we know, but we try to hold on for whatever reason. We try to hold on too long for relationships, jobs, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's always factors that really make us think, okay, is this the right time? Should I move? Can I bear it? Whatever. But I think, like I said, and thankfully doors had opened, especially for you, so that you could actually move. Like me and Andrew were already heading out. But it was weird for me because I was convincing you to stay
I know.
the entire time.
And then you abandoned me.
And then I was like, I'm out.
Yeah, it was so funny. I thought I would be the first one out, but yeah, you made that. You walked in, you're like, I'm done. I'm like, okay. So,
All right, I'm done. No, you still tried to hold on. You were like, you know what? I'm going to try to make it through. I'm going to try to make it through. But I'm so glad that you didn't have to. Glad we all didn't have to.
I feel like we're all going on to really good things. I'm excited about the projects I have going on. Takara, I can't wait to see what happens with you with your books, plural, because I think there's going to be more than one in your business. I'm really excited to see what goes with that. Andrew, I think you're going to be a phenomenal classroom teacher. I'm so excited. And I think Andrew and I have some podcast ideas for the future too. So we have stuff coming. And so I just think the trials that we had, the challenges that we had, it just set us up for the next good thing, and sometimes that's the way it is. I know my identity has really been refined in a good way through this. And from hearing you guys, I think you both have strong identities already, but I think it did also maybe help you define some of that a little bit more and what you value.
For sure.
Any final words? Any comments? Anything else that you want to say about identity or teaching or anything at all?
From first time that I conducted your interview, like to convince like I immediately there was something about just your energy and your bright light that came. And then when you got here, like we immediately connected in so many ways, even beyond just the work. And so like this has been one of the most meaningful relationships that I have had while abroad and just even in my adult life. Like I'm very appreciative of how much you have inspired me to grow. Like, honestly, when I interviewed you, it was like, I can learn something from her, and I have tremendously. But I would say this season, this transition season has reminded me that growth doesn't always come from adding something new, even though we do have some new things going, but it sometimes comes from releasing what no longer fits us in the current space and allowing us to make the space for what's coming next.
And I think transitions are so bittersweet because I'm so eager to leave certain things. And then I'm also going to miss so many, like the connections we've made. And you guys have helped me so much through this turbulent year and these friendships we've formed. And so I'm excited and then have these little pings of sadness too.
Oh my gosh. Together, we came together.
We're going to have to do like ongoing Zoom calls or something because those relationships are so important. And I think we've all leaned on each other this year. And there are times that I think I've cried in front of both of you. We've laughed a lot. We've, sometimes when things are difficult and just knowing somebody else gets it and then to be able to joke our way through it. I think I would not have made it through this year without both of you. I absolutely would not. And so I think having that network and those friends, it's essential. You just have to have that. I think that's so important.
I think it's so important. And I just want to say, like, you guys, I have already told you this, but here we are again. But you guys were both so good at understanding me, even though like you hadn't experienced what I had experienced yet. And being able to do that, I thought it was just so nice to feel understood. And so.
Well, I'm going to miss our talks, our catch-up sessions, our therapy sessions in your room when I would just come and hide and lay on your couch.
Thank you both for taking the time. It is a busy time of year. And so thank you so much for agreeing to come on my podcast. And thank you for sharing about your transition and everything that you've learned. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you. Appreciate everything that you've done this whole year. And I'm really excited for all three of us for what's going to come next.